Hello, my name is John Mad Dog Hall, and this particular talk is called The Power of Free. For those of you who don't know me, I have been in the computer industry for about 50 years. I've programmed in a wide variety of different systems in a wide variety of different languages, but I've also been a businessman. I've also worked and know the business of creating products, both free software products and also proprietary products. I'm going to warn you that some of the things I'm going to say here are going to be generalities, and that's for the sake of brevity. But I will stand behind the things that I say as to their truth and applicability to the world. If you take a look at the most used system in the world today, it is considered to be capitalism. And in capitalism, you typically have a board of directors who represent the owners of the system. That might also include the chief executive officer, the chief operating officer, and so forth, who then hire managers who then direct employees who are actually the ones who make things. And the salaries of the managers and the employees are typically up to the CEO and the board of directors. And their main goal is to pay these people the minimum amount of money that they can pay and still be able to maintain a useful workforce as well as useful products. Democratic socialism, on the other hand, is a modern topic which talks about the fact that employees own the actual company. And the employees are the ones who hire the management. And consequently, the profits or the revenue that goes beyond the expenses of the company are determined how they're used by the employees and the management that reports to them. So this can often have a maximum allowed set of profits or wages for the employees, because they say, well, I need so much money to live, and I generate so many products, but I also need to pay attention to my environment. I need to make sure that my children have good schools, that my children have good daycare, that I and my family have good health care. And consequently, the employees who are now in charge of the profits of the company may divert some of these profits to help to maintain these things. And this is a big difference between capitalism and democratic socialism. In capitalism, it could be that the owners of the company don't even live close to the company. They may live far away and so they don't care that the company pollutes the air or the water, or or there isn't enough good schools or good daycare for them. All they care about is a minimum amount of services for the employees so the employees still want to work for the company, but they don't care about the other things. In a democratic socialistic company, they do. With free software, we typically build the software by using a team of people. This group of people may originally have been interested in the software because they wanted it for their own use, or they had an interest in a topic, whether that be music or video or some other type of thing, or there was an interest in the type of technical information that went into the product itself, but it wasn't typically driven by how much money they were going to be paid. The schedule and the release of the software was determined by the readiness of the software. Now, obviously, no piece of software is perfect, and very few pieces of software are finished. But you need to say, does this piece of software fix more problems that are created, or fix some problems that are just hard to deal with and we need to get it out, not necessarily to support a new piece of hardware or some other type of reason for shipping it. Uh, Free software can typically be prototyped or built quickly using other free software, the shoulders that we all stand on. And the customer, once they get the free software, can hire a different developer, either the same developer if they did a good job, or a different developer to make improvements and bug fixes if the original developer is unavailable or if they don't like the work they did. With closed source software, the software is owned by the company or the boss, and it might have been developed by an architect at one time, but that architect may or may not even use the software. It could be produced by engineers who may or may not use the software. They're not actually the ones who actually need the software to do the work that they want it to do. And because of this, the releases are done typically for revenue considerations. You always want to have a next release because you need to have more revenue to come in. This is a very bad way of creating software. But the owners then determine the fate of the company and the employees. The owners could decide to move the entire company to a different country, to a cheaper and less equipped set of employees to do the work. And this is bad. So in democratic socialism, it's actually a very good mapping into free and open source software and hardware. The developers and the employees could own the company, and they could go out and get financing to build their company by selling bonds. Now, bonds do not mean that the bondholders control the company. All that bonds mean is that they have loaned you the money for some time and eventually they get paid back. It's not like stock, where stock means ownership. So you can create bonds by selling to friends and family. You can create bonds by selling to a financial institution, as long as you can prove to them that you have a reasonable path to paying back that bond along with the interest that they want. Crowdsourcing is another modern day way of financing a starting company. And there's been many crowdsourcing companies that have funded themselves and refunded themselves through crowdsourcing. But eventually, hopefully, your company gets to the point where the revenue is greater than the expenses, and you start to use your own profits to continue to grow the company. And this is how democratic socialism works. I'm going to stop here for a moment. I'm going to start talking about software piracy. A lot of people want to use closed source proprietary software that comes with a proprietary license, but they don't want to pay for it. They say, oh, how much does it cost this company to get another copy of this out? I don't want to pay the money they're asking for it. And so in some countries, software piracy can be as high as 90%. In North America, which includes the United States and Canada, software piracy is 16%, and this is from some of the richest countries in the world. That's $9.5 billion US of software that was supposed to have been sold, but was pirated instead. And this makes it harder for the companies and the programmers who made that software to make a living. They have to charge more for the software to the people who do pay for it than they would otherwise. And this is one reason why a lot of these companies have switched to licensing for access over the internet, because it's harder to pirate that software over the internet than, and it's also cheaper, makes it cheaper. So you're only paying a very small amount of money to access the software through web services or through a web-based system. So, but software piracy also makes it harder for free software to make a case, because people keep saying it, oh, all of our software is free. However, if they paid for the software, if they were made to pay for the software, then they might say, well, instead of paying for the proprietary software, I will pay for the free software. And instead of just paying for the software, what I'm really paying for are the services to make that software better for everybody. And so they start to they start to divert from using proprietary software into free software and redirecting the money that's paid for that proprietary software into paying local developers to make free software. And therefore, and while the individual may pirate software for their desktop, government, educational facilities, and large businesses can't afford to do that. They have to pay for the software, and sometimes it's millions and even billions of dollars that flow out of the country into whoever made it. So the current situation that we're facing right now is COVID-19. And let's face it, this is probably going to continue for at least a year. Even if we do develop a vaccine, the number of people who have access to that vaccine to create the herd immunity that we need is going to take some time. And while you may be protected in your own area, if you want to go to a different country, they may not be as protected as you are, and therefore you would still be exposed to the virus itself. Some companies are completely folding, particularly small restaurants and small businesses. They're closing up and they're saying, I'm never going to come back. I can't afford to come back. I have to do something else. And some, even with companies that are continuing to go, their sales have decreased, their revenues have decreased, and so some people are being laid off. Fortunately, a lot of these people are not free software people. However, they may be next. So I'd like to put forth some ideas about companies that could be formed by free software people and providing end user services to contract with the users of the software to give them solutions that they need. And you could do that directly with small business, show them how to do the work they need to do with free software and open hardware, single board computers, reuse old computers, the things that we're used to doing. You could also create a tier 2 service where you give support to people who do not know free software that well, but they're the ones who are selling the solutions to the customers. And when they come up with a problem they can't handle, maybe it needs a bug fix or things like that, that you could sell them the services or sell them the patch on a case-by-case basis. And this is how companies like Cygnus and Red Hat started, with selling service even though their software was free. There's other models that could happen. Service on hardware and software solutions, how to install and set up and maintain various things like multimedia centers, point-of-sale terminals, firewalls, and things like that, utilizing free software and inexpensive hardware. You could go into the educational field and sell education to people. And LPI, the Linux Professional Institute, of which I am the board chair, partners with people to do this. People train other people how to pass our certifications, and they make money selling that education. And I think that there are many open source companies that could be looked at and could happen in this time of critical need. So we need to think about this. And in doing this, we need to do the planning right. We need to come up with a business plan that shows things like cash flow and a financial plan of how do you get enough money to get this started. Now you could start this part-time, get to the point where you start to do some sales, and then that creates your cash flow. But you need to plan that out. so that you don't get halfway through forming your business and find out you've run out of money. You also need a marketing plan. You need to know who your competitors are and how much they charge for their solution versus your solution, and the advantages of buying your solution over somebody else's solution. Now, these plans don't have to be huge. They don't have to take a lot of time to do, and they're not cast in stone. You can change the plans if necessary. But you might want to find out other people who are in the same boat as you and get together to form your own business. So some people in the current situation are laid off, and more companies are going to fold, I believe. So now is the time to start thinking about your own company and to create that service-based or product-based company, and maybe engage other free and open source people that you know in forming this company and making revenue. Don't wait until the disaster happens. Do not wait until you're laid off. Do not wait until your company folds, because that would be a disaster. And the world is going to take a long time to recover from this. If you take a look at the Great Depression and how long that took, and they had a world war that helped them pull out of that depression. You could be your own bosses. You could control your own company and have your own destiny. So with that, I'll end my program. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for sharing this interesting topic, maddog. So now let's go to the questions and answers. The first question we have is, since all your whole experience, what would you suggest to people nowadays to start a cooperative of free software?
What would you suggest to people nowadays to start a cooperative? Well, basically, what I said, you have to figure out what you want to do, and you have to say, this is something I'm really interested in. I notice that there are other people who are also interested in this, and I'm going to start thinking about how much money I could make in selling some type of solution. So I've seen cooperatives that have started up. I mean, people come up to me all the time and they say, I listened to you 10 years ago, and now I'm the chief technical officer of my company because I started telling them to use free software to do stuff. They were spending lots of money on proprietary software. But the thing that's really exciting is every once in a while somebody comes up to me and says, I started a company and I now have 60 people that are working for me, 60 people that get their livelihood from what we're doing. Now the difference there is that they are the boss. They are the owner of the company. And there's nothing wrong with that. Believe me, I'm not against people owning a company. But the problem is that if that person is the owner of the company, they're going to be making all the decisions. And someday they may make a decision where they say, I'm going to sell the company to somebody else. I'm going to sell the company to Hewlett-Packard, or I'm going to sell the company to Oracle. And when they do that, all the employees really have no say in what is happening, because it's the company that owns the intellectual property. It's the company that owns the contracts. It's the company that, it's the owner owns that, and he sells that. If the employees owned the company, then what happens is the employees would have a right to vote as to whether or not they want to sell the company to Hewlett-Packard or whatever. And so it spreads the decision-making out. This is the difference between what, democratic socialism, which another word for that is cooperative, And a capitalistic system that there's only one owner or a set of owners, that over time, their only interest in that company may be how much profit it makes. They really don't care that you're making great software. They really don't care that, you have a good environment around you for living. So it's, come up with an idea that you think is interesting. Instead of you trying to do it by yourself, you may find other people who would be willing to work with you. I had a friend of mine who started a consulting company called Wild Open Source, and he had basically a Rolodex of other people that he would pull in as he needed their expertise. And, he also had salespeople that brought in, and all these people were in a cooperative. There was not a single boss of the whole system. So you come up with an idea of something, and then you make a business plan. And basically what I'm advocating is two things. Number one, that you work it out as a cooperative instead of a single owner. And the second thing is that you start thinking about it now, because I just am of the belief that the world's economy is going to go downhill a lot faster than people think it is. And it's better to start to think about this and start to plan it than to wait until you've been laid off. Let's see. Do you think it'd be possible to have consumer cooperative of free software users? Yes, I do. And I do. So the question is, do you think it would be possible to have a consumer cooperative of free software users who directly fund the features and bug fixes they want? Yes, this has been tried in the past. And I think, some of them have been relatively successful, and some of them were not successful. And I think one of the reasons why the ones weren't successful is because it was too early in the process. There weren't enough people using free software. So I gave a talk earlier this week comparing the early days of GNU Linux and free software, where you might have 10,000 different pieces, 10,000 different projects up on SourceForge or GitHub or something like that. And now you have 400,000. Before, people, companies used to think we were free software. And companies do use free software. They do use the software. They understand it better. So it's a lot easier to do something today than it was 10 years ago. And so, all I can say is you could try to have, people have gone through the internet, they tried to set up things of what you say, I have this problem, I'm willing.
I think he cut out. He's having some connection problems.
Yes, let's wait a bit, please, for maddog.
He's muted.
Unmute maddog, please.
Internet keeps blinking off. Sorry. Where was I? Where did you lose me?
The answer of the second question. Do you think it will be possible to have a consumer cooperative of free software users who directly fund the features, bug fixes they want?
That has been tried. Again, it was tried a long time ago. And, all I can say is you could try it again, because of the large number of people who are using free software and would be willing to pay some amount of money. I think another twist to that would be that if you had a group of people, so a lot of times people say, well, gee, fixing that bug, it's going to take somebody 2 hours of time, and they want, $100 an hour, so $200, I can't afford that. But if you had 100 people who all wanted that same bug fix, then it comes down to $2 a person. And the methods of collecting that money through some type of crowdsourcing thing or through PayPal, we have mechanisms today which are a lot better than the mechanisms of 10 years ago to make that type of situation work. I think somebody put okay. I hope I answered that. So yes, I do think it's possible, but again, it has been tried in the past. It didn't work too well. It might work today.
Great. Our next question. What can be done to convince the regular Joe Jane that Flows is a viable alternative? I have seen several people who insist on using Pirate software just because it is what they are used to. How to convince them otherwise?
Well, it means a lot as to what type of person you're talking to. The person on the street, mom and pop, it's probably going to be very hard to convince them that. But if you're talking to a store owner or a business, one of the things you might say to them is, if you use free software, I can change the software to make it do exactly what you want. You can't change the pirated software because if you try to go to Microsoft and say, hey, would you fix this bug for me on this pirated software that I purchased from you? They look at you like you're crazy, right? So, the pirated software, you can't change it because you don't have the rights to use it in the first place. And companies are afraid. This isn't just true in a lot of them. And so you have organizations like Business Software Alliance, the BSA. They will come out and they will take a company and sue them and get a lot of money out of them because they're using pirated software. Sometimes they're using it purposely. Sometimes they know it's pirated. Other times they don't. There was a very famous company made strings, guitar strings. I'm having a mental blank on their name. But they were found to be using software that was not licensed properly. So decided to get rid of the proprietary software in their company and go with free software. And it was a lot easier than they thought it was going to be. They were happy about doing it. Convincing that free software.
Okay, so maddog is having some issues with the network, so just be patient, everybody, please.
Uh-oh. Oh, we can have him dial in. Hopefully he comes back in. Hey,
Okay.
we can have you connect with your phone into the stream if you want to. If you want to make a phone call, and with the phone you can connect to the call.
Yeah, but we're also, I think, running out of time if I
Okay.
tried to do that. Let's just try and go on as it is.
Right. We are on the third answer about the convincing to regular people to use floss as a viable alternative.
How much of the third question did you hear?
I think almost complete. So if you want, we could go to the next one.
Yes, why don't we try to do that?
Right. Okay. So one of the current best ways in the U.S. to make big money is to produce an idea, sell it to a venture capitalist, build it to minimum viable product, and then sell out before repeating the process. If no one has money, it's going to be tougher to persuade anybody to pay for anything at all. Trust you. Have you a good idea for what happens when the economy falls to hyperinflation, equitable loans, microloans?
Okay, so there's a couple all social democrat thing. You typically want to stay away from a venture capitalist. I think I just been disconnected again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
You want to stay away from venture capitalists because they are the people who will try and take over your company if you run out of money. And so this is the traditional model. It's one of the ways the traditional model is working. The fact that you're selling out and then going to repeat the process, that's known as an exit strategy. You start your company up and you say, well, I don't want to do this forever.
And
Okay, we will
Okay. He's,
we will do something.
he is back. Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
We strongly suggest that you call in if you're having connection problems. It's not that
I'm
hard.
more low. Yeah, my internet keeps just
Yeah,
going in and out very rapidly.
it's fine. It's fine. Just it's very easy. You can call in and then type in the PIN number, and it will handle everything for you. You'll be in. Just we messaged it to you.
So Great Britain. Great Britain has a law that says if the company is going to be sold, the employees have the right to buy it. It's called right of first refusal. And if the employees don't have the money to do that, the government has to lend them the money at a very low interest rate. So, and the other thing, the friends and family selling bonds is another way to get it going. And it isn't, that's when I say family, that's putting the money into the bank. Because you get a higher interest rate for putting it into the bank, and you're more sure of getting the money paid back to you. From your standpoint, the bonds are also better because you set up the interest to be paid after, say, a year of the company going. So you don't have to pay anything back. You don't have to pay any of the interest for a year, or say, after you got the bond given to you. So you have time to start your business going and start to generate revenue before you have to pay the bond back. I had an uncle who started his own publishing business that way. And
Okay, folks. So
We
are having some issues. So please be patient.
We're gonna try to get him onto a phone call so we can get much better connection.
hello.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, maddog.
Can you can you call in, or can you? I mean, you can just call the number and you won't have any more connection problems.
Where
Okay,
is the number that I'm supposed to call?
it's on the messages. It's just on the bottom left. Open. You see that little on the bottom left of the window on your browser. It says open close chat. Click that, and the number's right there. And then right next to it is a PIN number that you will put into the that you'll punch in after you dial number. And on. Okay. High voltage. We are just having a splendid time here. Microphone appears to be noisy. Sounds like your microphone is making noise. Well, yeah, that's what it's supposed to do, right? Make noise? Or, well, not, yeah, it's not.
Okay, maddog is back.
Sorry,
Hi.
I find the telephone.
Yeah, no problem. So we can continue.
Well.
Okay, so let's go with the same question, or do you want to answer the next one, maddog?
There we go. Check. I don't know if I check.
And we only have like 3 minutes left anyway.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Natty wants you to check your Telegram messages.
My Telegram messages, okay.
Okay, so maybe we could try to answer the last questions and then have success. So, do you hear me, maddog? Oh no, we lost him again.
Why don't we just answer the questions? Let's just try and answer them.
Yeah, there are sentences more.
Okay. I think we could go a little bit over. So if you want to go a little bit, we can go a little bit over. That's what they said on the IRC. My boss is on IRC said we can go a little bit over.
Okay, so we have just 1 minute.
Hey, maybe you should try turning off your camera, disabling the video.
Jatan
Okay.
and Nicholas, I just want to say thank you at this stage for your dedication to leave no question left behind.
Oh, thank you very much, Tokayo.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did all what
I have
on our hands.
Yeah.
So maddog has returned. Do you hear us, maddog?
I can hear
Okay.
you. I dialed the number and I got a
Perfect. Okay, so
but he got busy.
continue.
Okay.
Let's continue, please, with the questions. So,
Okay.
next one. This is from Andreas Chile. In the COVID-19 hackathon of the Debian team, we contact some upstreams to free their software. In some cases, we succeed locally. Do you know people who might help us to continue this attempt? There is several software in life sciences and medicine out there which has no Debian Free Software Guidelines free license, and we would love to free it, but we need help with people bringing up more good arguments.
I suggest that this is something we could discuss, over email or something like that, rather than here and talk when I'm having huge problems in connectivity. I've given talks. I have one talk in particular called "The 10 Reasons Why You Say You Can't Use Free Software and the 10 Reasons Why Those 10 Reasons Are Crap." And it came from the fact that over the years I kept hearing the same reasons that people said why I can't use free software. And after a while I realized they were all saying the same thing. So I boiled it down to 10 reasons and then gave them the 10 reasons why those 10 reasons were never true, or that maybe they were true at one time. And for example, I can't use a command line. Okay. If modern day, GNU Linux systems, you don't need to use a command line. But these people were thinking about, Linux systems eons ago, and they hadn't looked at them since. So, I could be happy to work with you in trying to come up with answers to why they think they can't use free software. But I don't think that tonight, right now, is the time to do it.
Great. Our next question. I'm going to go to college soon. Do you think that creating your own consulting company in college is a good idea?
Yes. In fact, Project Kawa, which I talked about the other night, is an example of how to do that. And it's exactly for you as a student. Some of the things you might want to think about is creating a service contract with small business people to be able to help to take care of their systems. Because a small business person may have 2 or 3 computers and they don't know how to take care of them. What they do is they try and line up, consulting companies over the net, and that's a very painful process. If you could go to them and say, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 hours a week with you, making sure your system is right, making sure you have enough disk space, making sure you have the right device drivers in place, making sure you have security set up, then they would be willing to pay you money every month to do that. But that's why you need to have a contract. And the problem that most people have when they try and set up that type of business is they set it up with something known as break and fix. That when the thing is broken, the person needs to have it fixed and they charge so much money for it. But the problem with that type of service is that sometimes, usually when you're about to have final exams, that's when the customer brings in all their stuff that's broken and you don't have time to fix it. So having a service contract brings in a steady amount of money every month that you can count on, at the same time allowing you to control the amount of time that you spend with each customer. And so you can build your own schedule. So yeah, actually the person who created the free PBX system called Asterisk, he was running a consulting company out of his dorm room using his fellow students, and he realized he needed a PBX system to do voicemail and stuff like that, and that's why he wrote Asterisk. So yes, it's entirely possible, but what you don't want to do is to have it take up so much of your time that you're not paying enough time to your actual studies.
Wonderful. The next one. How do you convince people to pay for a FOSS-based solution product? Since some associate value with money, and when they find out it is a FOSS product, either they feel it is substandard, or 2, feel you should not make them pay.
Why do you even have to tell them that it's false? I mean, one of the talks I talked about with Project Kawa is I say, you've created a solution. This is what a product does, and that's what they're buying. They don't have to know it's false or not. If they ask, you can tell them. But what they're buying is a solution, and you happen to have a good one. So don't lead with it's false. Breaks. Lead with the fact that it's probably a lower price than some of the other stuff that they might buy. It's more flexible. You don't have to say that it's floss. Some people might want that. Okay, fine, you can bring that up. But people want to buy a solution, and that's what they're willing to pay for.
Wonderful. And finally, our last questions. Are bonds a viable alternative to investment?
This is actually my question. I thought
I did less than a day's worth of work to fix the problem that was costing them $2 million a year. And I said, I want my $500,000. He said, here for paying me for the amount of time. So you have to be able to figure out how to approach the customer, and don't say, hey, it's false. Most people don't care that it's false. What they care is that you're giving them a product. Somebody's
Okay, so thanks a lot, maddog. This has been a wonderful talk and such a great way to finish our last talk for the day. Thanks a lot, and see you next year.